I don't know who decided to program this and then talk on a panel afterwards. That's me. I did that to myself. I forget how sad this movie is.
I don't know who agreed to do it.
I know. Oops. Yeah, so thank you all so much for being here. Just wanted to let you know what we're going to do here for the evening. We're going to talk for about 20 minutes here, and then we'll open it up for about 15 minutes of audience Q&A. When we get to the audience Q&A, please just raise your hand, and Abby, our lovely film streaming employee, will come and bring you a microphone. So please do not shout out. I'm sure all of you have wonderful speaking voices and can project, but that is for accessibility purposes. So please wait for a microphone. Like I said earlier, my name is Clayton Shellgren. I am the General Manager of Events and Collaborations here at Film Streams. I am also an alumni of UNL and studied theater and film. So this is kind of like the perfect combination of what I got my degree in. So I'm very excited to be here tonight.
Hi, I'm M'Liss Patsner. I am the Community Engagement Director over at Snap Productions in the Ghostlight Theater over in Bellevue. We are Snap Productions. Thank you so much for having us.
Hi everyone, my name's Corbin Delgado. I am the president over at Snap Productions. Like you, I also did a lot of theater in college. I went there on an opera scholarship actually. So I've never been able to escape it, and it will not let go of me.
Hi everyone, I'm Joey Gruber. I'm the marketing director for Snap Productions. While I didn't go to school for theater, I somehow found my way back supporting the arts in any way, shape, or form. And I'm excited to be here with you all.
Well, welcome. So let's start with the film itself. What stood out to you most after watching Tick, Tick, Boom? Was there a particular scene, performance, a moment that stayed with you?
I'm happy to go first on this one. There's this specific moment that he mentions after his first time showing the preview to Sondheim in front of that group, and then also right after the first presentation of it, where you feel like you are at your lowest point, you've lost the momentum that you've pushed into something, and that one call comes in, that one moment of saying, hey, you did good, keep your head up, kid, keep moving. And for me, those moments in my life where I've had, like, it just brought a lot of those back. And it's one of the things I love so much about musical theater, movies in general, is that you can have those moments that feel small in the grand script, but are pinpoint accurate to what you're feeling in the moment.
I guess for me, it was when he finds out that his friend is positive and his friend just has to take a call, showing that life just happens at any moment. And I think it also shows just friendship and community throughout the entire film is a really essential point, and I often see that in kind of every day, and so it was a really, really beautiful way to see that show up in the movie.
I think for me, the most significant thing in this entire film and in the musical script itself, Jonathan, it takes such a specific type of vulnerability to express your lived experiences through your work. I love Sondheim, not as much as Jonathan probably does or did, but Sondheim expressed himself through these fantastical characters, but Jonathan was almost always himself, and it was almost always his friends in his work, and they were expressed directly, whether it's through name or intentionally through Tick, Tick, Boom as himself. And that vulnerability created such significant art that shaped a generation and shared such important stories. And every time I see his work, whether it's on stage or in this film, it feels like it's putting such a mirror up to the people that I know and love, the communities I know and love, and the artists that I know and love. And so that's my favorite thing about this film and this musical expressed in this way.
Yeah, there's so many things in this film that I absolutely love, but one thing that gets me really giddy every single time is that diner scene with all the cameos that everyone, did you catch that? Like everyone's there. My partner leaned over me and goes, hey, that's Lin-Manuel Miranda. And I was like, yeah, he directed the film. And so
This is a controversial take though,
Oh.
because earlier Corbin and I were talking about this because he has a very different opinion
Oh,
about that
okay.
scene. And I was of the same mind because it's so, like, for those who love theater, seeing like Bernadette Peters, you're like, yes, my girl! But also like all of the Hamilton cast, the OG Rent cast in that kind of little second, but Corbin, had his own opinions, but that's, the great thing about theater is that we get to like see it and then feel differently and singularly for ourselves every single time.
Yeah, it does kind of break the illusion that you're there, because I kept thinking like, oh, Andrew Garfield is there with Philip Sue, and I'm like, oh wait, no, he's someone else. So our next question is,
take this.
so one of the central themes of this film is pursuing art despite uncertainty and financial insecurity. How do you see those same challenges reflected in our lives, in the lives of artists working here in Omaha today?
Well, as someone who's running a theater, a small independent theater in a place, I don't know if anyone knows, we live in Nebraska. It is a fight to keep theater alive and moving forward. And we put so much sweat and soul into just making sure we get through, we get to the next performance. And there are times when we will be looking at our budget for the next couple of months and go, oh shit, if this show doesn't sell well, what are we going to do? Am I allowed to swear here?
Yeah.
Okay,
absolutely.
great. And it takes those moments of going I'm gonna use an example real quick, not to eat up too much time, but we had a donor buy out a night of our last show, Jagged Little Pill. And I had talked to the donor specifically about this and was like, well, is there any groups that we could bring in? And she said, oh, if you can think of one, invite who you want. And I said, okay, great. And so I reached out to the Stevens Center, and they work on a lot on addiction recovery. And if anyone's ever heard the script for Jagged Little Pill or seen the musical, it deals a lot with addiction, recovery, redemption, that kind of thing. And I was a huge toss-up reaching out to them. I said I had 35 tickets they could use how they want, and they jumped at the chance. They ended up using every single ticket that they had except for 2, and they had people there who were in recovery, who had never seen a musical before in their life, some people who were in their 60s or 70s who this was the first time they'd seen it since they seen any type of musical or theater since they were a kid. And they came out with tears in their eyes, just chatting about the musical afterwards. And I got a message back from the executive director from the Stevens Center saying they won't stop talking about this. And it makes all of those late night calls, it makes all of those moments where you're reaching out saying hey, can you give anything that you got to make sure that we can put another show? It makes those things, going to thrift stores looking for props that we can get, all worth it to know that it makes that kind of impact.
Similar to that, from a little bit of an artist's perspective, the arts are always going to persist, but they cannot exist without community. And I think that was such a central theme in this film. Jonathan could not have progressed through the writing of the musical without the support of his friends and loved ones. And that sense of community, all of those actors that came, all those musicians who came, I am almost certain those actors were just so excited to be there, and they were getting paid pennies most likely, because typically that's what happens when you're trying to debut a new show. And the spirit and the desire to create, there's been so many shows. I remember 5 years ago you had a Purris on the panel, Purris Stelton, a local entertainer here who's my drag sibling, and I remember Purris and I, off of 13th and Vinton in an art gallery that no longer exists, performing every single Thursday for us and our friends, just with the desire to make something happen. And so what we are doing over at Snap is so similar to what we're seeing with Jonathan, where it's local directors, creatives, artists, and then all of our friends and family, and sometimes almost no one else. There's been plenty of shows with just 7 people in the audience, and it's 2 hours of our lives and so much labor. We all have jobs and families, but we love to create, and that is going to continue no matter what.
Really hard to talk after both of you. Oh my goodness. But I think one of the things that you all have said so well, and what we hope to see with SNAP, is being able to lessen that financial burden, to be able to give these artists and our creatives financial compensation as we get to have them on our stages and behind the scenes.
If I could say one more thing, we know at SNAP that money should not be the reason why you're not able to experience art. And so every one of our shows we do, it's an industry night. And it's a pay what you can night that we open up to the whole public. And it is the night that we sell out for most of our shows, because for a lot of people are working multiple jobs. People have nights where, like, all right, they work over the weekend, they can't come see a show normally. And so opening it up a Monday evening where people can come in, they can throw $1, $5 and go see some really damn good theater. Like, we'll have people come out and say, look, I gave $5 tonight, but I'm going to tell all of my friends who can come, and they'll come see the rest of your shows. And we see, I kid you not, every single one of our shows does better after that industry night, because the word of mouth, that community that M'Liss was talking about, is so central to making sure that art thrives in our communities.
Great. So many folks, myself included, discover musicals or plays through adaptations on film, like Rent, Chicago, The Normal Heart, Fences, or Doubt even. How do you think movie musicals or film adaptation of plays encourage audiences to experience live theater, or vice versa?
Okay, so I don't know if any of you know this. Peter Dinklage was in a version of Cyrano de Bergerac in, 2022? 17 people saw that movie. But it is one of the most fun adaptations of the Cyrano story. And actually, when I saw that Peter Dinklage, and they hide that it's a musical sometimes too. They do that with movies a lot. Mm-hmm. I don't know if you can tell me why that is.
It's because typically movie musicals do not do well at the box office, so they hide that fact and try to trick people into going to see it.
So Peter Dinklage raps while punching a small punching bag in this. It's fantastic. Go see the Peter Dinklage Cyrano if you can. But to get to the point of this, one of the great things, this movie was a really great example of this. You're able to do some magic in film that you cannot do on the stage. You're able to frame shots in a way that make you focus on a specific emotion that a character has. And one of the great things about theater, like live theater, is that you get to see the whole scope of everything. And it's a work to get people to focus on a specific part of the stage at a time. But you have so much control over that when you see something like this. And if you watch this version of Tick, Tick, Boom, and if you go online and you look up Raul Esparza's stint at playing Jonathan Larson in Tick, Tick, Boom, you'll notice some really clear differences, and some things will stick out differently because of what your eye or what your heart is pulled to on the stage versus on the screen. And I think the stuff like this really encourages people not just to experience one version of art, but seeing it produced in many different ways.
I am going to speak a little bit to the perspective of accessibility in cinema versus live stage production theater. What was special about what we got to witness today was the captioning on this film. We have the wonderful Pamela Duncan interpreting here for us, but it is highly skilled and highly labored work to be an ASL interpreter, and it is highly expensive to get that labor into our local theaters. And we're really blessed and lucky over at Snap Productions that we have an ASL theater education immersion program. So we get ASL students from the local colleges to come and get critical experience signing with us, and then our deaf community gets to come and get live theater experience. But that is not always the case. It is so expensive and it's hard to get grant funding. We all know this. But in the cinema, if you are deaf and you get to have that live captioning, you can have it in your home. If you have a physical disability and you cannot get up and into a theater, you can watch all of the things that we love and get to share all of the same stories at home in comfort or at a theater with live captioning. The accessibility, that cost barriers, disability barriers, all these different variables, it gets minimized. And that's one of the beautiful things. We talk a lot about how technology is really scary, but that is one of the beautiful things we get to take advantage of. So that's a huge point for me that I appreciate.
Yeah, I think our ASL program that M'Liss has started and championed at our theater has made a huge difference. Seeing the shows afterwards and hearing how people have been able to engage with our theater in a way that they don't typically in our community has been a huge impact. As well, accessing movie musicals. Growing up, I didn't really do musical theater. I didn't really know what that was, but I saw Hairspray about 1,000 times, probably broke my mom's VCR with it. But when I grew up and knew that it was an option to see live theater, I really jumped on it. And so without having movie musicals, I probably wouldn't have been exposed to the theater at such a young age. So can show up in really interesting ways.
So tonight brings together Film Streams, cinema, I hope you know that, and then Snap Productions, live theater. While cinema and live theater are very different experiences, they share many of the same audiences. I'm sure, raise your hand if you've been to a Snap production. Great. How many of you have been to Film Streams before? Great, point proven. How do you see these art forms strengthening one another rather than competing for attention?
Oh, I think you're immediately handing that over to me. Going back to what I said before, like there are some great opportunities. One of them that's coming up in Omaha now. It's not at Snap Productions, but we uplift all theater here. Evil Dead the musical is being done around here. It is one of my favorite things, but like that wouldn't exist if it wasn't for the original Evil Dead movies. If it wasn't for Sam Raimi, if it wasn't for the cult of stuff that went along with him. And there is such a joy of having those little cult things that you can have together as a community. And what I love so much about independent theater is that you're able to see those things, you're able to have these throwbacks like Tick Tick Boom tonight, where you get to experience art that's out of circulation. Like I talked to some folks that were coming in here, and this movie's been out since 2021. Who had not seen this or really heard about it until, see, I love the hands coming out for this. And that wouldn't exist without independent theater like this. And we at Snap Productions always, our goal is to make sure that people are able to see theater that they wouldn't really able to see otherwise. And so we choose as part of our slates things that people may not be able to see at wonderful theaters like Bellevue Little Theater or like Omaha Community Playhouse. Wonderful institutions, but being able to be an independent institution that is focusing on these weird experiences provides you some freedom in that. And we love, like I said, uplifting the arts is not just uplifting yourself. You're uplifting all of the arts around you, which is why I like to call out the other places that are doing some wonderful things like Voices in Alliance in the area. We succeed by making sure that people experience theater broadly. I don't think Snap succeeds as an organization if people just come to see Snap Productions, because that's just one thing that they're seeing in a year, or 6 things they're seeing in a year if they go to every one of our shows. But if you're supporting arts broadly, it creates a culture that supports the arts. And people will say to their friends, come see this thing with me. Come, like, I dragged so many of my friends to come see this. Joey dragged so many of her friends to come see this. Like, M'Liss dragged
myself.
themselves. But we couldn't do this if we didn't have support community to bring with us to these. And that's how Film Streams help Snap. That's how Snap helps Film Streams, is because we're going to be talking about this for years after this moment.
I think similarly, in the opposite direction of fun movies, stretching and challenging theater to create fun adaptations, this film stretched the kind of cinematic universe of Tick Tick Boom. Or like, think about Wicked. The Wicked films stretched what we thought and knew about the musical. All the super fans were looking for all the little Easter eggs and things. But in these adaptations, we often get completely new songs, which is such a fun, like, musical opportunity for all of these artists to kind of stretch those muscles and say, what can we do to increase and improve upon or add to, for Wicked, a show that has been existing for so many years. And that is such a fun and artistic collaboration that we get to do between all these different avenues of the arts, as well as kind of cinema film, like the kind of directorial element of it as well. Like some of those shots, like Jonathan Larson in his bed typing, like using the keyboard while laying down. I just know the director, when he got the script, he was like, oh, this direct above the head shot, they're gonna eat this up, okay? And then all of the editing that we got to see, like through kind of the CGI and the Moon Dance Diner scene, all of those editors and all those different creatives, they got a beautiful fat paycheck for that, and they got to stretch those skills. And it's just, we get to blend and curate, and I think that for those who are like kind of those elite like musical where they're like no adaptations, you're missing the opportunity for so many new artists to get their fingers in and create new parts of the art that we already love. And I think that kind of collaboration and blend is so significant. It's always fun. It may not always get exactly what you want in there, but you always get something new, which is the art of creating. It's amazing.
Yeah, I think going back to what Corbin said about creating this culture of arts, I think that whether you're a lover of theater or movies or anything in between, but you're not really exposed to one, I think that being able to find that like one thing to get your movie buff friend to come to live theater, and then they come out after and they're like, you were right, this is amazing, I will come again, really is such a fun and thing that's possible as we continue to create community within kind of theater and film.
Yeah, well, thank you guys for sharing. Are you guys ready for some audience questions?
Yes.
If you raise your hand, if you have a question, raise a hand, and we'll bring you a microphone.
Don't be scared.
Hi, so with you all working in live theater, this being a movie musical adaptation, and then last month the Hadestown Pro Shot being released in theaters, I would love to hear all of y'all's take on like how those kind of intermingle with each other, how those influence each other, or even like how they kind of feed off of each other potentially.
Okay, so one of my favorite moments post the Hadestown movie or Pro Shot coming out to theaters was a conversation with the woman who played Persephone. Her name escapes me right now. My deepest apologies to all the super fans out there. But she said, if I had known that the production that we did that day was going to be the Pro Shot, I would have acted differently. And I would have done differently with my face. I would have dialed it back a little bit more, because there is a huge difference between the way that you present yourself for live theater versus what you do for a camera. And I completely understand. I've been on both sides of it. But also, it's really cool. And they did this earlier this year with Merrily We Roll Along, which was also, no, that was last year. My goodness, how the time flies. But it's those moments that get people able to see something that we in Nebraska wouldn't be able to see a Broadway show otherwise, unless we went to those lovely criminals who have recorded these things under slime tutorials on YouTube. But it's those things that get people interested. It's them seeing that and going, well, will this be touring in my area? Or are there other local places that are doing it? Going back to how the fact that theater is becoming more democratized through pro shots being done in theaters is encouraging people to come see local theater. We heard people when they came over to see Jagged Little Pill is, oh my goodness, I'm so looking forward to Hadestown coming to theaters. I was just in the theater mood now. Like, that's what's creating it, and it's beautiful.
We can do it.
Yeah, go ahead.
Just kind of like that as well. Like, we just did a showing of Next to Normal in our last season, and it was a beautiful, incredible show, and our cast was crazy. It was so good. But we had just seen PBS release the West End Pro Shot of Next to Normal with that beautiful cast, and people were so excited when we released not long after that we were going to be doing Next to Normal, and that excitement really did up all of our sales. So I can only ever see that collaboration as like a beautiful and exciting thing, similar to like when Wicked came out. The amount of Wicked themed drag brunches, I was able to pay my bills so well and have money after. That doesn't happen when you're a cross-dresser, okay? It was really, really nice. So that kind of like connection between this like mass-produced version of all the things that we love, it only reinvigorates the spirit. And so stuff like this is just really exciting for us in the arts realm, for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, to add on, as somebody who thinks about marketing, scrolling on TikTok, because I tell myself it's my volunteer job to do it, it really gives me the opportunity to be able to show the connections between what we're doing in our community and what folks are doing broadly, and it really makes it easier to tell the story that we're hoping to show to folks and get them to come to our stages.
Yeah. Before we move on, I would say actually today we were upstairs in the office talking about the pro shot, and it was a really cool like crossover because there's a really they use the camera really cinematically in a way that you don't typically see in a pro shot, and a lot of us are theater people upstairs, and we were like, wow, this is crazy. They need to do more of this. If you haven't seen it, I think it's still in theaters. I think they extended it. Go see it. It's really awesome. Do you have any more questions? Perfect.
I was wondering if each of you could share your favorite film adaptation of a stage musical, and if appropriate, a favorite musical adaptation of a film, if you can think of any.
Can't think of any.
Then I'm gonna let you go first.
Starting with the part of the question I would like to answer most. Groundhog Day the musical is my third or fourth favorite musical. It jumps between those two slots. And what I like about musical adaptations or like stage adaptations of film is that you're able to do stuff a little bit differently. You're able to focus on different parts of characters that may have been crunched for time when you're fitting it to a strict 90 minutes for doing like a theatrical production or like theatrical production versus a theatrical production on stage. And Groundhog Day the musical, I think, is one of the best examples of this because you have something that really shouldn't work on stage. You're repeating the same day over and over again, but you get these magnificent moments where you have Phil like saying at the exact same time the lines other people are doing, and that is so difficult to pull off on stage. You have these moments where you're able to have certain characters shine in a musical that you don't get from the movie. Playing Nancy is the opening song to Act 2. You get to focus on a character who gets probably 6 lines total in the movie and get to see her perspective of what it is like to be that specific person who's meant to play this role. It's a throwaway in the actual movie. One of the best songs, again, in Act 2 focuses on Ned Nyerson, who's the guy who gets punched in the face. And like he has the most heartbreaking song that I've used as an audition piece multiple times. Like M'Liss mentioned earlier that there are some theater purists who are like, oh my goodness, if it's not an original work, I don't want to see it on stage. I am not that person. There is something really cool about being able to make art unique to the medium that it's in. And it's why I like seeing more movie musicals come about. I wish they wouldn't hide behind them. I wish more people would come out and come see them. And I also wish, I'm also excited to see more musical versions of movies come out because you're able to do something cool with it. And you're able to make those changes that weren't able to be done for some reason or another in the original script.
I definitely agree. I think that my favorite musical to movie adaptations I have loved the most because I've gotten to see people engage with some shows that I've enjoyed or maybe haven't enjoyed. Fuck it, I made people come to see Cats the film 5 times in theaters, okay? I could not force people to come with me enough. And then I would sit and they might have had no idea, but Mr. Mustaflis, once that came on, me vibrating out of my skin, I'm like, and they're like, what am I? They're cats. But for me, my favorite, it was Wicked. It's just going to see it with my mom. My mother, when I was a baby, would sing For Good to me, and that was our song. She was always Galinda, and I was always Galinda, and so we had to beef on who was going to be Alphaba. And then, the second we went to see it in theaters, as soon as that opening sequence started and the monkeys are flying, both of us just sobbing hysterically, because for a lot of people, seeing these films, it's like coming home. when you've loved these shows forever and getting to see actors and actresses that you love or maybe have never even seen before engaging with this material, it's gorgeous. And like along the vein of like we're doing more shows based on film, like or based on albums, like Jagged Little Pill. I am not a Jimmy Buffett fan, but I went to see Escape to Margaritaville, the musical, at OCP because my best friend was in it, and seeing his joy because he loved that material, it made it an amazing experience for me and for everyone involved. So, gosh, Wicked, yeah, and Cats, probably mine, yeah.
Well, now I'm gonna go watch Cats after this.
Please do.
It's a treat.
For me, I mean, Rocky Horror Picture Show, I feel like it's just so good. I've seen the movie, I've seen local adaptations. It is just something that I feel like you can bring anyone into and they're like, what the hell just happened? That was the best thing I've ever experienced in my life. And one of my good friends, we watched it, both the movie and then right after saw the show at Bellevue Little Theater. And just being able to like talk for hours about like the differences and just what we loved and how like, since I am in the theater community, being like, I know that person, they killed in their last show, I can't believe they did this role in this way, just really is something that is so fun and really meaningful.
Alrighty, friends, that is all the time we do have for this evening. Please give it up for Snap Productions. Thank you all so much for being here. Please meet them out in the lobby, ask about all the incredible things that they're doing here in town. Go see them, come support local theater, local cinema. Thank you all so much for being here and have a wonderful evening.